Hello, everyone, and thank you all for joining us for our latest webinar. My name is Megan Santangelo, and today we are joined by Adam Gottheim, our Director of Strategic Partnerships. Today, Adam will be showing you how ProCharge Desktop works and provide all the details you need to start selling to merchants requiring in-office payment acceptance. If you have questions, please use the chat and Q&A features, and our panelists will do our best to address those for you as we go. So Adam, if you're ready, I will turn this over to you.
Thanks, Megan. I appreciate the introduction and I appreciate the support provided in helping to get ready for today's webinar, How to Gain More Business with ProCharge Desktop, presented by yours truly. We're going to take a look at our agenda or overview of what we'll be covering today. And I thank you all as well for attending and spending some time with us on this wonderful Wednesday afternoon, depending upon where you're joining us from. Could be a wonderful morning for you. But today we're going to cover a little bit about what is ProCharge Desktop, a brief introduction to the product itself. We'll talk about some market and sales opportunities, some of the advantages and benefits of the product, the features and capabilities within. We'll introduce you to ProCharge Desktop with a product walkthrough. We'll have some conversation about smart conversation starters and how to handle objections, some objections that we typically will see and face when demoing the product for prospective merchants or agents who are interested, how to set up and install ProCharge Desktop, and some helpful resources relative to the product. So we'll jump right in. We've got a lot to cover today, and I'm happy to be able to share this information with you. It's been a while since we've presented anything relative to ProCharge Desktop as a product. I think initially when we launched the product 2 years ago, we had a webinar surrounding it to share some similar content with you, but it's evolved greatly over the past 2 years. There's some features that we did not have implemented at initial launch that we have since added. We've talked about and we've worked on some support for different operating systems, all of which we'll cover today. So I'm excited to be able to take the time to share this with everybody. I'm excited for you all to learn about the product, whether it's your first time looking at it or whether you're returning with some experience of ProCharge Desktop under your belt. We are very excited to jump into this content today. Just a reminder, if you do have any questions, please utilize the Q&A or chat features within Zoom. As we go about, I'm going to stay focused on my presentation, but we'll try to address some questions along the way, and I will aim to make some time at the end of the presentation to cycle through all of those questions. So please make sure you're using those features so that way we can address your specific needs or inquiries throughout today's presentation. What is ProCharge Desktop? It is the quintessential solution for merchants that require in-office payments. It is a simple desktop application that semi-integrates through the network with a chip card reader. In its core, we integrate with an S300 and are adding support for new devices, which we'll talk about shortly. And we will also discuss where this is a great fit for you. But ProCharge Desktop is a solution that was developed in order to play, as I like to say, play in the same sandbox with large ERP solutions, practice management solutions, allowing certain verticals, which we'll review shortly, to help run their business and process payments securely, safely, and quickly. Here, all within this one wonderful little application, which we will have a walkthrough of today. You can see a screenshot of it here with the basics. I always like to refer to this product as a glorified standalone terminal, if you will, because it really boasts the same core feature set as a standalone terminal with some additional capabilities that we'll take a look at once we get to the product walkthrough. It's a very simple, easy to set up product. We have always touted this as the standalone solution and something that you as an agent or even your merchant can set up without even having to reach out to us for help, because there are so many valuable resources that we'll take a look at down the road here throughout the presentation that aid in the simplicity of the product. Sometimes this product is so simple that it worries me, but we've had some great success. It's really taken off and has gained traction in the marketplace, and we've found it to be a kind of set it and forget it kind of product. Once it's implemented, it runs very smoothly. It's easy to use. It's easy to understand. When we first launched the product, I refer back to one of our beta merchants, and I always do. This particular beta merchant, and I believe you can read about this particular merchant through our case studies that are available. They have gone, ordered everything, got their equipment, and with the resources that we'll take a look at, they were able to get everything set up, connected, plugged in, and running test transactions. And they called us because they had a question about one particular feature within regarding refunds. So, you know, the simplicity is there, the ease of use is there. Where does this fit though? You know, understanding its core, understanding what is ProCharge Desktop. Where do I go after? Who can I place this with, right? I've listed some low-lying fruits here for you. Dentists, physicians, physical therapists, medical practitioners, accountants, financial advisors, attorneys, car dealerships, graphic design firms, and recording studios are newly added industries. And this is very much so because of some additions that we've made to the product lineup, or the ability to support other operating systems, which we'll talk about shortly. But these are your low-lying fruits, right? The product was developed to serve the professional services, the medical practices throughout the verticals that we interact with on a day-to-day, because a lot of these businesses utilize a practice management solution or an ERP software that runs their business. And a lot of times those solutions don't offer payment processing. And if they do, they don't offer EMV. And if they do, it's very costly. So there's a couple of features, advantages, and benefits that we'll take a look at in prospecting these particular types of merchants, so you can understand those and start conversations with these types of merchants. Again, I'll reiterate it. These are your low-lying fruits. These are the easy ones to go after, but don't get stuck in the box. ProCharge Desktop, as I've noted, is essentially a glorified standalone terminal with control from a computer-based program that pushes to a semi-integrated payment device and allows for simplicity of collecting payments from customers in office, right? And we'll talk about the methods of how and what, but again, don't get stuck in the box, right? Don't get stuck in this low-lying fruit box. You may find opportunity outside of this box. I refer to another one of our beta merchants. There were two primarily. One of them kind of fell into the car dealership realm. They sold golf carts. They also did service on golf carts and sold other random collections of things for households, right? But the other beta merchant that we had was a metal fabrication plant. Nowhere did we envision that they would find success with ProCharge Desktop, and they have. They're still using the product today. It's been a seamless solution for them, and they are enjoying it. It has simplified their operation, which you can also read about in a case study that we have posted on the ISO interface for you. But again, these are your low-lying fruits. If you have dentists or physical therapists or any of these types of merchants in your portfolio, if they're using a standalone terminal today with an ERP or a practice management solution, go prospect them. Tell them that you have some better technology for them, because that merchant becomes more sticky for you as an agent, right? You have the ability to retain them with proper technology, with good equipment, making that merchant even more sticky and reducing attrition for yourself, right? And then at the same time, if there are merchants that are on this list that are not in your portfolio, start visiting them, because you have a powerful solution to try to win them over, right? Low-lying fruits, easy to win, easy to sell. I've helped some of our agents local to myself install at a dentist office. We have some great success in car dealerships. We have allergy clinics with 65 locations currently boarded and using ProCharge desktop combined as well with the ProCharge platform for invoicing, and it meets their needs for in-office payments, right? So keep these in mind. Attack if you don't have them, and revisit if you do already have these in your portfolio. What are you going to talk about when you go to meet with these prospects, the low-lying fruit, if you will? The advantages and benefits of ProCharge Desktop focus mainly on streamlining checkout and saving merchants money on processing costs. Easy payment processing, fast checkout, support for multiple workstations, quickly printing receipts with existing office equipment, easy setup and install, next day funding, no additional processing costs or monthly fees, and a PCI DSS certified solution. These are the bullet points that you'll need to start having conversations with your prospective merchants about the product, making sure that you're hitting these marks when having conversations with them, so that way they understand the benefits of the product, right? And we'll take a look at these functions a little bit deeper when we get into the product walkthrough, but it is super simple to be able to use this application running in its respective environments, keying in amounts, processing, hitting the process button, allowing that communication to go through to the semi-integrated payment device, which is now customer facing, hopefully mounted correctly on a countertop for a patient or a customer or a client to interact with. The equipment itself is the equipment itself offers EMV payment acceptance, chip card acceptance, NFC payments. So if you have Apple Pay, Google Pay, Samsung Pay through watches or phones or tablets, we have the ability to process those payments. The devices that we'll look at shortly also are backwards compatible. If a merchant or a customer does not have a chip card or an NFC type of card, then they can utilize MagStripe in order to process payment. And even more so, the devices are set up to allow for manually keyed transactions. So in the off chance, or if a merchant has a small percentage of over the phone payments, they can process those through ProCharge Desktop. Instead of presenting a physical card present type of payment, the person on the other end of the line receiving the card information from their patient or customer or client or whomever can just manually key the card info into the payment device itself. Fast checkout, super easy to be able to communicate with these devices. Very minimal information is required to enter into the application to communicate with the payment devices, so it speeds things up. I used to go to my eye doctor, and I would the checkout process would be a little ridiculous and slow because they would have to wheel from one end of the reception area to the other in order to take my card, go back over to the payment device, insert that card into the payment device, come back over, hand me a PIN pad, get a PIN number. Things are simplified with ProCharge Desktop because somebody who is processing payments in the reception area for any one of the low-lying fruit verticals that we've talked about can interact with the computer that they're likely pulling records from and information from, key that information directly into the application right on screen, and then push the request to a customer-facing device, helping to improve operational efficiencies, speeding up the checkout process, serving more clients, getting them in and out of the door faster so you can see more people, collect payments from more people, and make more money from a customer perspective, right? Support for multiple workstations. ProCharge Desktop can be installed across many workstations in one single environment. I'm going to reference a Ford dealership that we have using ProCharge Desktop. The finance team within this dealership consists of 11 different people, and each individual has an instance of ProCharge Desktop with a semi-integrated PAX device running at their desk. And each has their own local reporting that pulls up to a cloud-based report that we email out on a regular basis, and additionally also pulling up to the merchant support center. So you have your support for multiple workstations as well. In addition to being able to run this application on multiple workstations, from one workstation, I can have 4 payment devices connected at the same time. So if I have like a med spa and there's 4 different doctors within, and I need to be able to push a payment for one doctor or another doctor, you'll be able to see when we do the product walkthrough the capabilities there, right? The ability to quickly print receipts with existing office equipment. This is a biggie, right? This is a big, it may not seem like a super important bullet point, but this comes up a lot when we're doing product demos relative to ProCharge Desktop. Because ProCharge Desktop as an application is installed on a computer in an office already existing, that office likely has some fancy multifunction printer, copier, scanner. I don't know if fax is still a thing these days. I'm sure it is, but not super popular. But we can utilize that already in place multifunction device to be able to print receipts for ProCharge Desktop. We do offer optional receipt printers. So if a merchant is looking for that standard thermal-based 3 and 1/8 inch copy, we can provide them with that too and set that up on their system's network or directly plugged into the computer where the workstation is using ProCharge Desktop. But most people that we've interacted with already have a printer that they'd like to use and don't want to mess with. And it works flawlessly because it's already installed in their computer's environment, right? Easy setup and installation. I've kind of referenced this point when talking about one of our first beta merchants who figured out how to plug everything in, connect their payment devices, run sales, and called with a question. After everything was pretty much set up, they found a stumbling point, and we were there to help them. We've spent a lot of time to come up with content and materials that are available across many different platforms that we'll take a look at when reviewing resources for the product to make this as easy and simple as possible to install. A lot of times, if we're replacing an existing payment device that's already in place at a merchant location at the reception area, all we have to do is plug our payment device in, download the application, install it, and then create the connection between the device and the application. Super easy. At first it may take you a little bit longer, but I guarantee you, if you get your hands dirty and do 1 or 2 of these, you'll be able to move on with your eyes closed, right? You'll be able to go in without any of the resources that we provide and likely get a merchant up and running off the ground, probably within an hour at most. And this is not to communicate that we're not here to help and support the product, right? We're always going to be here to provide you that level of support. So if you want us to be there to help you remotely, you just let us know when you're doing an install, and our teams have been trained to be able to assist with these types of installations, setting up equipment, pairing devices, and providing basic training. But it is super easy to do. And you'll be able to see that in reviewing some of our resources that we have available for you relative to next day funding. Pretty self-explanatory. I could go both ways on this topic, but merchants, from a merchant perspective, this is super important for them. Merchants like to know that their money's not getting held up, that they're receiving it quickly. The majority of the installations that we target, the low-lying fruits, they run typical business hours and usually will batch out well before the cutoff time for next day funding. No additional processing costs or monthly fees, another pretty self-explanatory bullet point, the same with PCI DSS certified solutions. I'm not going to dive too deep here. One thing that we have added with the release of this new version as well, which is super important for those who are utilizing the ProCharge desktop solution, is the code signing that's in place, right? So when you go to install this application in Windows or in the newly supported Mac OS environment, which we'll talk about here on the next slide, we need to be able to make sure that our application is not going to get flagged as a potential threat or as a virus, right? It is trusted software. It is signed with a certificate on both Windows and Mac environments. Super important, very, very, very important for those that are operating in secure environments as well, right? We want to make sure that we're aware of that and that we communicate that as an advantage and benefit, right? Here, understanding the advantages and benefits that we just talked about, I also want to introduce the payment equipment that we can communicate with, right? ProCharge Desktop will work as an application with any 64-bit Windows 10 machine or Mac operating system. I will note that the Mac operating system requirements will state that we need Mac OS 12, or otherwise known as Monterey, or newer, right? I believe this version was released in 2020, 2021 timeframe. So any Mac computer that is running Monterey or newer, we can install ProCharge Desktop on. And as we look at the application itself here in a few minutes during the product walkthrough, it's going to be the same application. Same UI, same UX, just running in the Mac environment instead of the Windows environment. Today, I'll be demonstrating in the Windows environment. You'll be able to see the product as it exists running in Windows, although again, it's the same for Mac-based users as well, right? This is a huge addition, and I just want to go back. This is why we've added these two low-lying fruits to the list. These are typically merchant types that utilize Mac to run their business. So before, it'd be tough to go in and prospect these types of merchants because I'd say the majority of them, it would be a safe bet that you're walking into a place that's running their business on a Mac, right? A lot of these others, dentists, physicians, physical therapists, the medical professionals, the service professionals, they're usually Windows-based shops, right? So we were always able to work with them because of the requirements that we have in place. But these two low-lying fruits have been added mainly because, again, they use Macs to run their business. And this will give them a simplistic and easy way to be able to process payments, right? Initially, when we first launched ProCharge Desktop, since inception, we have integrated with this PAX S300 device. It's a wired device that connects into the network. The application where the application running on the computer where it is installed and the payment device need to be on the same network, and that's true for the newly added support for the PAX A35. You know, we felt it important to be able to offer an additional option. You know, we made it through some of the shortages and scares with supply on the S300, but if that happens again down the road, we have the opportunity to also use a PAX A35, and we'll likely be offering options to request either or if you have a preference at this point. But the lab has been hard at work testing and validating the PAX A35, and we're excited as part of this webinar to introduce that growth, right? It just gives us another option. From an aesthetic standpoint, a merchant may like this A35 better than the S300. It's a little bit newer technology. You know, their Android-based platform, you know, it has a little bit more improved performance. So this is a new addition that we did not have originally when we first launched the product, that we've been hard at work trying to add to the mix relative to ProCharge Desktop. So with all that being said, I'm going to take a quick break here from the slides, and we are going to walk through the application as it exists today, right? Again, I am operating and demoing today in a Windows-based environment. We will be sharing with you the features. We will be sharing with you all of the basics, and it's just a walkthrough so you understand what's included in the application. And we'll take a look at the front here, the operating side of things, so you understand all of the basic fields and inputs. And we will also take a look at the settings, which will help to illuminate some of the features that are supported that aren't in your face and obvious just by looking at the front end of the application. Before we dive into the walkthrough, though, there's a couple questions that I would like to address, before we get too far into the walkthrough. The first one, where can we get cost for several workstations? So all pricing information on the product is going to be available for you on the ProCharge desktop setup form, which is posted to the ISO interface underneath of the ProCharge section, the forms and documents section underneath of the ProCharge section. You will be able to find the pricing. It's your pricing as the sales agent, and feel free to mark it up if you would like, but that is your base price. You're paying for the payment devices itself and the application that is deployed along with it. So your pricing may be a little bit higher than you would expect on the S300 or A35, but you're not just getting the payment device. You're getting the payment device with the file built for ProCharge Desktop, and you are getting the application to install as well, right? So I thank you for that question. It's good. We'll review that in some more detail once we get to the resources slide. After we get done with this walkthrough, we're going to dive back into some slides, and we'll be able to see some specific details on where to access that information as well. The next question, closeout and deposit into the checking account, or does each device need to close out themselves, causing multiple batches? So each device, and just to clarify a little bit, the question is related to if there are multiple devices being used, is there one closeout and deposit into the checking account, or does each device need to close out themselves, causing multiple batches? If it's the same MID, for example, we can set them up for combined funding, which means that each would have their own batch, each payment device. If, for example, we'll go back to the car dealership, right? With the 11 different stations, and I assume that's where the question was rooted from. Each one of those devices is going to have its own batch based on the file build settings, but we can set up the back end to offer that as one combined funded deposit. You run into the same issues that you would with combined funding for Friday, Saturday, Sunday deposits, where they'll all deposit and batch in one lump sum, but they would they would close out and deposit individually unless we had it set up on the back end for combined funding. I hope that addressed the questions as we prepare for the walkthrough. Great questions. I appreciate the attentiveness and involvement. It adds to the content that we're able to share, and I'm sure other people have the same questions. So keep them coming, and I'll find some opportunity to address those questions as we proceed here. So to get back to it, we are looking at a product walkthrough of ProCharge Desktop, again, running in a Windows environment. You're not going to notice any differences if you were to launch this in Mac. It's going to be the same basic desktop application as you could see here. I have the application. You could see accessible as I come back and forth in between certain applications. Like here on my slide presentation, I can very easily just click on my start menu and pull the application up for easy access. The application can stay open in the background all day long while I'm operating, working in my ERP or practice management solution. And when it's time for payment, very easily click over to the application running in the background. At the same time, if I don't want it running constantly, I can always just open it very quickly in order to access its basic front-end features. You'll notice right off the bat the three basic functions that the product has within: sale, void, and refund. At its core, these are your three basic functions that the product is capable of. This is why I kind of communicate it as a glorified standalone terminal, because these features are very much akin to a standalone terminal, right? These are the same three basic functions that you have with the standalone terminal. We're just improving the exchange, if you will. We're improving the efficiency. We're making it easier for a professional service merchant or a medical practice merchant to process payments with their customers who are in office, right? Very simply, entering a unique invoice number to start, so I can tie relationship back to my ERP or practice management solution, and an amount to be collected. These are the two basic pieces of information that we'll need in order to process a payment. Sale being selected, as I enter this information, I'm processing a sale. These are the two required pieces of information that we need in order to process a sale. And it's as simple as keying them in and hitting process, right? I don't have a payment device connected. You guys wouldn't be able to see it anyway. So I'm going to avoid processing payment here. I am going to just keep it simple and enter this stuff in. The maximum number of characters for an invoice number, as the question comes in through Q&A, I believe is 55 characters. And it does accept alpha characters too. I have a dentist office who is using the solution, and they will come in and utilize patient initials and date of service as their invoice number. So that way they can easily identify the transaction, if you will, and tie it back to this customer and this appointment, right? If for whatever reason a merchant doesn't want to track invoice number, for the life of me, I don't understand why, but they exist out there. They can leave it blank and just put an amount in here. Another reason why I like to refer to this as a glorified standalone terminal. You can key in an amount and hit process, and a sale will process without having to input an invoice number. It's always good to have that point of reference though, right? For purposes of recall, for purposes of being able to look up transactions later, it's very easy to identify an invoice number. Additionally, we can generate invoice numbers automatically through a setting on the back end that we'll look at shortly. But this is your basic information that you need in order to process a sale, right? Pretty easy, pretty simple to input. You see me typing here with right into the fields. I'm using a physical keyboard that's plugged into my computer. I have options to copy and paste. So if I have an ERP solution or I have a practice management software that runs my business, I could copy values direct from there to eliminate human error when typing in an invoice number or typing in an amount to be collected for an appointment or service provided, right? Sales are very simple, right? Voids are equally as simple. It just varies with the information that's required. And just like on a standalone terminal, voids can be only open batch, right? If the batch has been closed, we cannot process a void, okay? We need to enter in an auth number and the last 4 digits of the card used for the transaction within the open batch. We can get this information from a few places: customer receipts, local reporting, contacting merchant support and asking for transaction details. But all you need to do is enter in the unique authorization number and the last 4 digits of the card, and this will be enough to uniquely identify the transaction. Entering it, selecting void, entering this information and hitting process. And that transaction will void from the open batch like it never happened. If the batch is closed, on the flip side, we have the availability to come over here to issue a refund, and the refund is for closed batch transactions. So a day or two later, if somebody comes back and a refund needs to be issued because of a mistake in service, an overcharge, whatever the reason, we select refund, and here you'll be presented with the same information to be collected as if it were a sale. The invoice number entered can be unique, right? So if I'm using a refunded invoice, I can enter the same one that I used to create the sale, but I can also put an R in front of it and use my same structure to identify an invoice for refund, right? Pretty easy, pretty simple. Copy and paste again, just like on the sales side. You have the ability to enter the invoice number, again, also optional for refunds, just like it is on the sales side, and an amount. You'll notice on the refund side, we insert the negative value into the dollar entry field, so you could see that it's going to be a reverse or a refund in this case instead of a sale. Very clear, very concise, and easy to execute. When entered, With the required information, you hit process and it will process the sale. We also have clear buttons, which will clear the fields if any information is within. I will note that you can also use the keypad here to enter information into any of the fields, whether sale, void, or refund, right? So we get a very good basic idea of the core functions within ProCharge Desktop, looking at the front end here, right? Here, we're going to dive into the CF a little bit later. This is an indicator of what we call checkout fee. This is essentially a surcharge that gets added to the transaction amount that's entered. So whatever my defined percentage or dollar amount of surcharge is, I can come in here and it will automatically attach a checkout fee when this feature is turned on. This red ring around the CF is just an indicator to tell me that there is no checkout fee currently paid or turned on, sorry, applying to payments, if you will, right? We'll also talk about this at length as well, but I noted the ability to support 4 different payment devices from one application. This is the ability to do so. Each can be uniquely named. For those of you who are wondering, I am not a certified doctor. I just like to pretend to be for ProCharge desktop purposes. But here is where we'll select the payment device, uniquely named, that we would like to push payment to. And this is all configured and defined on the back end of the application. So just to take a look at this, we're going to go into the little hamburger menu at the top. About and exit are pretty self-explanatory. About gives you the version information and the technical support number if you need help, or merchant support information if you need help with the batch or transaction information. Exit, pretty self-explanatory, is going to close the application. Settings is really where I'm going to spend most of my time today as part of our walkthrough, and you'll be able to notice a couple different features within that you don't really get the concept or idea of when we're looking at the front end. A workstation ID. This allows me to uniquely identify my workstation, where the payment is initiated from. So if I have a workstation defined, right, it can be, again, alpha characters, number characters, whatever I am going to use to uniquely identify this workstation or activity coming from it. This will transfer over to the local report that we offer, and it will also transfer over to the web-based emailed report that we send out automatically at a defined time to whomever needs to get that report, right? So this is important, especially when we're talking about a place like the car dealership that has 11 stations running. You want to know where your payments are generating from. So this is what we use Workstation ID for. I talked about the ability to auto increment invoice numbers. So if a merchant is not looking to enter uniquely created invoice numbers from an ERP or a practice management solution, they have the ability to turn on this auto increment feature, and they can define the starting number. And you'll notice that I'm going to put it way up to 10,002 and hit update. Here's my invoice number. Every time I run a sale, a void, or a refund, this invoice number is going to increment automatically. I can override this for whatever reason if I want to. So I have the ability to be able to, enter something in unique if I want, and then it will go right back to the next incremental number after that uniquely entered value. Going back into settings, here is our setting relative to checkout fee, right? It can be a percentage-based fee or a dollar-based fee. They cannot be both. It can be one or the other. And once defined, this percentage or dollar-based fee is going to automatically apply to the communication sent to the payment device. So at a 3% fee, if I were to have this on, and you'll notice my indicator now is green because I've enabled the feature and defined a value. If I enter $100 here, when it pushes to the payment device that is customer facing, then it is going to present a collected amount, or an amount to be collected more appropriately, of $103 based off of the defined percentage, right? It's taken care of in the communication between application and payment device. The reporting that comes along with ProCharge Desktop, CSV based, stored automatically on the operating system's computer within the documents folder, will break out the base amount and the fee applied for reconciliation purposes, right? But here you can see the difference, right, on the indicator, as well as down at the bottom, our ability to add a custom message to the receipt. And you see here, I have a little reminder. This is for demos because agents and merchants alike need to know if we're talking about this feature that this is going to be a forward-facing message. So don't put in here, this is a 3% charge for all my jerk customers because you're all jerks and I want to charge you an extra 3%. They're going to see that on their receipt. That may not bode well for earning repeat business by any means. So keep it clean. All right, this is your friendly reminder. But this is our checkout fee feature, right? We talked about the ability to set up multiple payment devices. This is done based off a unique IP address for each payment device. I do not have more than one payment device in my lab configured for ProCharge Desktop. That's why you see the IP address is all the same. But in the real world, in a production environment, we would likely see something like this. Each device gets an IP address assigned through the network. We look up that IP address just like we would find it on a standalone device within the PAX file or other semi-integrated applications like in use with Axatouch. And we would enter this information in here, give it a unique name, and hit set. And it would initialize communication between the application and the device. So some pretty basic setup to be able to use multiple devices. And then once defined, right, those devices will be selectable here. We're not going to use an IP address to identify a unique device because a reception area worker who is collecting payments for 4 different doctors isn't going to know to look for 192.168.1.119 or .8, 117 or whatever the IP address is. They need a user-friendly, easy way to identify the payment device, which is why we have the unique ability to assign names to each one of these devices, right? Selectable from this drop-down, obviously. Going back into settings, we have some abilities relative to receipts as well. Saving receipts, I strongly suggest whether you print receipts or not, this should always be turned on. What this is going to do, and I'll see if I can pull it up without too much trouble here. What this is going to do, it's going to create a file within the documents folder called ProCharge receipts, as you can see here, and it's going to store all of the receipts that are ran through the application on this workstation, right? And for those of you paying attention, and this will address one of our questions as well regarding the requirements for signature by customer. We will collect signature manually if a receipt prints out, right? Here's one without a signature. This would print out and we would ask our patient or client or guest to sign like they would any traditional paper copy receipt. But one of the cool features that we offer also about receipt is capturing signature. This is done through the PAX S300 or A35. So those devices are configured for sign on screen. It collects the signature and it superimposes it back to the receipt, as you could see on some of my examples here, right? Collected the signature, signed it on the PAX device, and it collects right back and pushes it right onto the receipt. So there's not that extra step of having to sign a piece of paper, right? What's cool about these stored receipts, you can email them, right? If your customer calls and says, hey, I need a copy of my receipt for my visit, come into the ProCharge receipts folder and very easily just grab that file and email it to them. This is why I strongly suggest having save receipts turned on, right? And it gives you a paper trail too. It gives you some backup to the local reporting so you have this information in duplicate in the system. We have the option to turn on printing of receipts. This is where you'll get your receipt header information that can be edited, and scalability, so you can increase the width or decrease the width relative to the media in which your receipt is printing on. Both of these can be turned on at the same time, and it will absolutely save and print if these are both turned on. And you can also use capture signature regardless of whether or not you're printing or saving receipts. The floor limit that we have defined here is relative to signature capture. So this is the minimum transaction amount for collecting signatures. So if you don't want to collect a signature below 25, you set that as your floor, and anything below this amount will not prompt for signature. Anything above this amount will prompt for signature on the device. So just to review these feature sets. And, at its core, these are your basic features. A couple ways to get back to the front end. You can cancel, update if you've made any changes, or simply just select the logo at the top and you're right back to the front end of the operating application. So this is ProCharge Desktop, right? Super simple, very easy to use, very intuitive, basic features, but monumentally important, helping, like we talked about, improving the speed of transactions, increasing operational efficiencies, simplifying things so we don't have to wheel our chair around one end of the reception area to the other in order to serve our customers, patients, or clients, right? This is ProCharge Desktop. And again, you see me working in a Windows-based environment. This is the same functionality on the Mac side too. Same setup, same download of application, all the fun stuff you need to get this to work. We have the ability to operate in the same capacity on either operating system, right? So we're going to jump back into the slides, but before we do, I want to take a circle through some additional questions that have come in, right? Are transactions also housed in ProCharge website where you can go and void and refund? No. There is no connection between ProCharge Desktop today and the virtual terminal as it exists. They are two separate entities. Everything pulls up together from a reporting aspect in the Merchant Support Center, but nothing in ProCharge Desktop passes over to the virtual terminal gateway side of things, and vice versa. Nothing in the virtual terminal side of things passes over to ProCharge Desktop, right? Just how it is, how it's been designed. There is some consideration to figure out how we can bring these functions into the fold together and marry them, if you will, so that there is that communication back and forth bilaterally. But today it does not exist. Any activity ran in ProCharge Desktop needs to be voided or refunded in ProCharge Desktop respectively, and any activity done in the virtual terminal has to be voided or refunded or payment collected in the virtual terminal, if you will, right? Could payment be accepted over the phone with card not present? Yes, absolutely. The payment devices that we integrate with can be enabled to accept keyed card information into them. So when you're entering in information here and you hit process and it communicates with the designated PAX device, instead of providing a card present payment, you would be able to just manually key the card information into the PAX device itself, right? We may have been able to address this question relative to how the checkout fee shows, but the question itself, how does the payment receipt show the checkout fee, right? Mainly the root of the question, because with dual pricing, you cannot show the checkout fee. So this is not a dual pricing solution. This is a surcharging solution. And let me see, I'll try to find a receipt in here. You could see here how the message appears, and you could see also the checkout fee listed. So this is not, again, this is not a dual pricing solution. This is a surcharging solution, right? So here, this is how it will present. So it will not conflict with any kind of dual pricing scenario, if you will, right? So a couple more. Is it saved by day? Our signature saved by day. So signatures are going to be saved if you have the save receipt preference on. If this preference is on and you're collecting digital signatures through the PAX device, as you saw in my ProCharge receipts file, it will save signatures for each individual transaction. You could see the time and date stamp here relative to the activity, right? And you'll also be able to corroborate that data with the date information that is printed on the receipts. So again, thank you guys for your questions. I think they are excellent. And again, I'm sure there's other people that have the same inquiries that you are having, and I appreciate the engagement while we go through the demo. Keep them coming. We're going to talk a little bit now that we understand the features, advantages, benefits, the hardware, the low-lying fruit, a little bit, I think there's enough information that's been shared at this point to allow you guys to be dangerous with the product and go out there and start prospecting. So let's talk about some smart conversation starters while you're out there prospecting to be able to hopefully land some good opportunities for yourself with this product, right? How are and these are questions that you would present to your merchant in prospecting. Merchant, how are you currently processing payments, right? They can come back to you and say, well, we're using a niche market software solution and we are processing payments through a standalone device, or we're using a virtual terminal solution and we have a terrible chargeback problem for all of our in-office payments. We need an EMV solution, right? Follow-up question, and that kind of alluded to this, are you using an ERP or practice management software? Yes, we sure are. It's another follow-up question to that. Does that software offer EMV payment integration? As I noted in the beginning, a lot of these ERPs, practice management solutions, do not offer payment integration. And if they do, they likely don't offer EMV payment integration. So we can ask and follow up again, how costly is that payment integration with your current ERP? Because this is where you're going to start to win business, because these software companies that create platforms for dentists and doctors to be able to run their business, they don't want to mess around with adding abilities to integrate with EMV devices, because that's not their core. That's not their, that's not their prime, functional area of expertise. We work in the payment space every day. This is our bread and butter. This is where we're most knowledgeable. Somebody that's creating software for a chiropractor's office doesn't know about payments. They don't want to spend the time to learn about payments, so they can offer that to their merchants. They only care about the specific functions that chiropractors need to run their business, excluding payment, because of the time and effort it would take for them to offer an integration. So keep these in mind as you're prospecting. It will help you to start asking the right questions when you're out talking to some of the low-lying fruit that we've mentioned earlier. And of course, when we start asking questions, we're always going to be faced with objections on the flip side. My ERP does not allow integrations for payment. This is great. We don't need to integrate directly with the ERP. As noted, ProCharge Desktop is a solution that can play in the same sandbox as the ERP, right? There needs to be no connection between an ERP and ProCharge Desktop outside of the information we extract from that solution in order to input into ProCharge Desktop for payment purposes. Not all of our payments are accepted in Office. Also okay. We have many merchants that are using both ProCharge Desktop and the virtual terminal, even though we talked about the inability for them to communicate. One is serving purpose for in-office payments, being ProCharge Desktop, and the virtual terminal resolving issues and providing benefit for invoicing for a lot of our merchants who are operating with both, right? Again, no connection between the two as far as sharing information back and forth. But on our merchant support center, all reporting rolls up to that one point for the merchant, so they can get reporting from all of their electronic payments products. You may have somebody rebut and communicate that our work computers run on Wi-Fi. That's okay. As long as we can hardwire our payment devices into the same network serving Wi-Fi, we can communicate with them for acceptance of payment and sending communication, right? We do not use an ERP or practice management software. Again, this is okay as an objection because we've just found the opportunity of a lifetime to provide a standalone terminal merchant with some updated technology and improve their operation just in presenting them with ProCharge Desktop versus using that standalone terminal. Right. So some common objections, how to handle them. We face these a lot when we're doing demos for our merchants and our agents alike. How to set up ProCharge desktop. We talked about the benefit of easy to install and easy to set up. It's a very simple 5-step process, right? Download the necessary application. The application itself, whether you are looking for Windows-based application or Mac-based application, is going to be available to you on our ProCharge website. If you go to procharge.com, and if it allows and moves fast enough, here, clicking on the desktop payment acceptance solution, you have links to download both the Windows and Mac version that are here. They won't do anything for you if you've not submitted paperwork, because they are going to, you could download all day long. When you go to install, it's going to prompt for username and password, and you'll need to enter that if you want to get any sort of use or function out of the application. But super easy. Go to download it. Requires necessary admin credentials to download stuff. If you don't have those, then somebody will have to provide them to you at the merchant location, right? Super easy, not too difficult to work with. Step 2, install the application after it's downloaded. Again, this is where you'll need username and password, which we provide to you in our welcome emails that we send out. Step 3, pair the payment device with the computer, making sure that they are on the same network with the same IP structure, and then run a test sale. Once that test sale is ran, just make sure it's populating to reports to make sure everything is good to go, and you're up and running in five easy steps. Quite frankly, you're up and running in 3 easy steps. The last 2 are just checks to make sure that you did the first 3 steps correctly. How do you know how to do all this, right? Super easy, super simple. I've alluded to some of the resources that we have made available to assist with this task. Here you could see we offer product demos. Some of you may have realized or have booked demos in the past and noticed that there was a specific ProCharge desktop demo link on Calendly, but we've simplified our presentation of demo options on Calendly, and we have just one ProCharge platform overview, which you can find the link here, right? And this is also going to appear on our main Calendly booking page. So if you have the need as an agent to learn more about the product or have follow-up questions that pop into your head as soon as we disconnect 5 minutes after 1 today, you can always book a demo using this link. Just in the notes, just let us know that you want to learn about ProCharge Desktop. If you want to bring a merchant to these demos, we're not going to object. Just again, put a note in the booking that says, hey, I'm coming to the table with a merchant and we want to learn about ProCharge Desktop. If you're not sure which piece of the platform would be best for your merchant, don't specify. Our demo team has been trained to ask those telling questions so we can identify which piece of the platform is important for your merchant. It could be ProCharge Desktop. It could be the virtual terminal gateway solution. It could be the mobile payment solution. It could be a combination of any and all of the above. So utilize this link to learn more for yourself and for your merchants. Guaranteed, you'll sit in on 1 or 2 of these and you'll be very comfortable enough to go out and sell this product. It's that simple, right? EPI digital channel. This is our YouTube channel. Fancy way of saying our YouTube channel, right? On the YouTube channel, within the ProCharge section, there are videos that walk you through downloading, that walk you through installing, that walk you through pairing payment devices. There are videos that teach you how to run sales, voids, and refunds. So that way you have the basic functions nailed down and can help your merchants get set up very easily, walk through in a super easy fashion, just watching quick videos. I think the longest one may be like 2 or 3 minutes long at most, and it will give you the information you need in order to get all of your merchants set up and execute steps 1 through 3, right? On the ISO interface, you'll find the ProCharge desktop setup form. This is where you'll get your pricing. This is the paperwork that you'll need to submit in addition to TSF to request ProCharge desktop for your merchant. As you fill out the TSF, if you indicate ProCharge desktop, it will tell you that additional forms are required. The ProCharge desktop setup form is that additional form, right? Again, that gives you your pricing on all the equipment that you could possibly need or want to set up ProCharge desktop. We also host and share a ProCharge desktop wiring diagram. which we do also send out along with the links from the YouTube channel in our welcome email. So once you get that welcome email, after you've submitted paperwork, File Build will send out a welcome email with username and password, as I've referenced. They will also send out, included in that welcome email, the wiring diagram, this user guide, typewritten user guide that goes over the same basic functions that are on the digital channel and more, right? The written user guide covers every feature we've talked about today, from signature capture all the way through some troubleshooting if you can't get your payment devices paired. All of this gets sent out in the wiring or in the welcome email. So sorry. These are all located on the ISO interface for you. And lastly, as I've noted, even though we've developed this to be a self-sufficient standalone product with very little needs for support on the install setup side and support side after the fact, our teams are here to help you. Reach out to us if you need help. If you're going on an install tomorrow, call us, shoot us an email, give us a heads up so we can have somebody available for you, or let you know what the schedule looks like so we can make sure that we're here to support you. But just call us. We're here to help. We want you to be self-sufficient, but at the same time, we want you to be successful. And if that means calling tech support or emailing us to get help, don't hesitate, please. Uh, you know, this is ProCharge Desktop. We've talked about a lot of great things relative to the product today. We've reviewed all of the features, advantages, and benefits, a basic definition of the product. We talked about the hardware, the operating system environments that we can support. We got a great product walkthrough to understand the features. We've talked about some opportunities, who we can go after and prospect in some low-lying fruit environments, objections that we could face in the field. This is the point of these webinar Wednesdays. This is why we spend the time with you guys, because we want you to have enough information to be dangerous out there and be successful in your prospecting with the product, right? We have some upcoming webinars that will continue this trend and really drive that point home. Tips for selling Deliver Me online ordering, presented by our one and only POS channel sales manager, Ryan Chrisman. This is going to be on the 24th of May at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. We're going to take a closer look at Deliver Me and discuss how you can leverage the solution to close more deals and retain merchants. Ryan's going to touch on the standalone solution here as well. We've recently deployed Deliver Me standalone, so it's a non-integrated solution that you do not need Exitouch for. You don't need to integrate into any point of sale system for that matter, so it gives you the opportunity to get your foot in the door. Make sure you visit our events page here and register for this upcoming webinar so you can learn about this great product in a couple weeks as well, right? Always take these opportunities. We're here for you guys, and we love being able to share knowledge and education with you relative to all of our products. In the same breath, we will be in attendance at the Southeast Acquirers Association show in June. The 12th to the 14th will be set up at booth number 12. This one is going to be at a great location in Hollywood, Florida, the Diplomat Beach Resort. A beautiful, beautiful location. I've been there for non-events and events alike. We'd be happy to see you. It's a great opportunity for you as an agent to get some face time with our team. As many representatives from the company will be there to help further the knowledge and education about our products and processes. We have the ability to really spend some time with you one-on-one there, and we look forward to anybody that's able to join us. And probably my most favorite and anticipated communication, I'm sure you guys may have seen some buzz around this topic on the socials or even on the ISO interface, but registration for Impact 23 is now open. If you missed us last year, this is your opportunity to join us for a one-of-a-kind world-class event. It's a great opportunity for you as an agent to come and learn about our products and processes, meet the team, network with others of like-minded, opportunity. It really really is a one of a kind event, and it's been growing. I mean, I think last year we had almost 300 attendees or 300 people in attendance at the event. You know, to be announced, awesome concert. Um, Maybe the highlight for some of you last year. It really is going to be a great time. We hope that all of you have the ability to join us. Check out all of the details and complete your registration by visiting the Impact website, impactepi.com. We look forward to everybody being able to join us at these events, especially Impact this coming year. The second annual golf outing, the activities that take place in between the breakouts. It really is an excellent one of a kind event, and we look forward to hosting it. As much work goes into it, we're happy to put it on for your purposes and benefits, right? So I thank you guys for your consideration in joining us in Impact this year, and we hope that you don't miss out. So make sure you go and visit the site to register today. With that, I am going to take a moment to say thank you, and I'll probably thank you again 12 more times before we wrap up here. But I do want to address, looks like a couple more questions have come in. Can someone do a comparative quote for a merchant by having a copy of their monthly statements? Yeah, that would be something I think you could reach out to merchant support. They have a department, I think it's proposals but merchant support can clarify, or ISO support can clarify the right point of communication for you to be able to do a side-by-side comparing current monthly statements to prospective statements that you'll be able to offer them with rates through EPI for all of our products, not just ProCharge Desktop. We have some questions coming in elsewhere. Who can I speak to about adding a feature to Deliver Me standalone? I would connect you with ISO support as well, and they can point you in the correct direction or pass the request along to the product team. I'll be happy to share the request that was shared through chat as well with the team, so that way they're aware of the possible improvement that they can make to the standalone solution. So I thank you guys all today for your questions. I thank you for your time and attendance. I thank you for your attention today. I know we're a few minutes over the scheduled end time, but we covered some great material today. And again, thank you. I think that hit 12. So I'll turn it back over to Megan to wrap us up. Megan, marketing team, thank you guys for your work and your support in being able to put on this iteration of Webinar Wednesday today.
Of course, and thank you for your time. That was a great presentation. We will be sending out a recording as well as a copy of the presentation deck to everybody who has registered and attended. So watch your inbox for that in the coming days. And as Adam said, we will be in Florida, not only for SCAA in just over a month, but also for Impact. And I see a lot of familiar faces on here that have joined us previously. So be sure to head over to impactepi.com and submit your registration today. It's a good time, and we hope to see you there. Thank you all again, and join us on our next webinar. Have a great day, everyone, and thank you again, Adam.
You're welcome. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you.